everyone. Welcome to this episode of Sunny Silver Lining. My name is Todd Billier, and with us we have our host, Sunny Kaila, and we are super excited to have, the man who doesn't really need an introduction, Adam Slutskin. Adam, channel legend, if anybody truly is. He's a well-established sales leader, but more than anything, when it comes to leadership, based on his military background, the man's an expert. If you have any questions, he's the one to go to. So, Adam, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Sunny. It's really great to be here with you guys.
Hi, Adam. Thank you for coming to our podcast.
All right. So let's just jump right into it. Here we are in the middle of June 2020. Things are just starting to open up as a result of COVID. Adam, how have you seen the need for strong leaders to step up as we've gone through COVID and as we're kind of starting the recovery phase of it?
Todd, it's a great question. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I love talking about the time I had in the military. And I don't think I started as a great soldier, and I think I definitely got better as I stayed in for about 20 years. But Todd was also in. And so, Todd, you and I saw both, firsthand when we were in the military how important leadership is, but especially in a time of crisis and confusion and fear. I've seen a lot of great stories, across, we'll just talk about our ecosystem. Things were happening and developing quickly. And I saw a lot of great movement from not only the MSPs that I know, and then from a lot of the vendors I work closely with, as, February and March were a scary time. The unknown is scary. And I think that there was a lot of great leadership that stood up and said, okay, I'm going to lead my team, my company through this, and we're going to make the adjustments. But here's the other part, right? That goes along with leadership. It's one thing to say something or say we're going to do something. It's another thing to also inspire people and to reassure them that, it's going to be okay. The example I always use, my wife was a flight attendant for a long time. And if you ever are on a plane and when you get into some bumps, the one thing you always see is people will lean out and kind of look at the flight attendants. And the reason they do that is they're looking to see if the flight attendants are okay. And when you look down the aisle and you see the flight attendants aren't worried, you see the heads come back in and people aren't worried. And in essence, to me, a lot of that is really, right, what we're talking about with leadership. People want to know it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's that whole leadership example, not do as I say. It's do as I do, not do as I say. I agree. So Sunny, you've been running your MSP for 17 plus years now. How have you seen the need for a strong leader to step up, both, here at IT by Design, as well as what are you hearing from your other MSP peers?
Yeah, leadership during crisis is so important. You as a leader, you need to work harder. You need to inspire people. You need to make sure that you have that discipline behind you, and you lead by example with that discipline and with that hope. And that's what we are focusing on at IT by Design, and that's what we are practicing and preaching in the channel.
Absolutely. And back to you, Adam. One of the things we've really seen impacted as a result of COVID is, a little slowdown in sales. What have you seen the good sales leaders do that's made them stand apart from the average and poor sales leaders out there?
Yeah, and I think, just let's talk about the difference between leadership and management. Generally, I'll see management be, I would define management as reactive, and leadership really is proactive. And I think from my peers in the space, and obviously as, we're all dealing with the same thing, this great unknown, right? Nobody knows how the story is going to play, and we have to make adjustments, right? And I think that's where you really just saw the leaders, instead of being reactive, step up and be proactive. What does that mean? From a sales perspective, what should the message be when you are calling on prospects? Or how about, remember, on a revenue team, it's not about prospects. It's also about your existing partners. How can your account managers and customer success, what should they be doing and what should they be caring about? And I really think that, Todd, it came down to that proactive planning. Nobody ever wants to be in a crisis, but when you are, that's when leadership has to step up and lead the way. and you have to be more proactive. What does that mean? Well, we were all going to be moving to work from home. And some of the challenges are going to be, you're not going to see your salespeople or your company or your team, whatever department you're in. You've got to make that pivot to understanding on how you're going to communicate differently. What is the message going to be that you want to communicate to your prospects and your partners? What is a reasonable expectation? If we're going to talk specifically about sales, what are the objectives? Your objectives are never going to be the same, and they weren't the same. And the message isn't going to be the same. How you manage your people to an objective, right? Salespeople generally have quotas. Are the quotas going to be the same? And so seeing all those things and being proactive in addressing them. And then I think the biggest thing is if you ever thought you were a good communicator or that you were transparent, understand that you're going to have an even bigger challenge with being transparent, with being being out there, communicating at a frequent enough volume to communicate to your team. And you have to find those other ways to do it. And I think that's where I saw leadership really step up and across many of my peers at so many of the vendors. And then, by the way, we say vendors, but I've been blessed to be in the MSP ecosystem for 13, 14 years. And having a chance to talk to so many of the MSPs, and man, I just saw them step up and lead their companies, their teams through this. It was a crisis. It is a crisis.
Absolutely. And Sunny, what guidance did you give to your senior leadership team, specifically as it applies to the revenue team here at IT by Design?
Yeah. So what we did, Todd, at IT by Design, first, we looked at our core message, because I do believe that message is so important. We have to while we have to keep the core message as the same, but then you need to adapt to the situation a little bit, and you need to make sure that your message is going to resonate well during crisis. That's one piece. Second, it starts with me. You got to be a caring leader, especially in during crisis like pandemic that we're going through right now. You got to be very, very caring leader, patient, teacher, coach, and be there for your team, because everyone is going through a lot of emotional difficulties, and you got to be there to give them that support that they need. So you got to be there for your team.
All right. And Adam, one more question here. We like to keep things right moving along. Let's talk a little bit about metrics and data when it comes to achieving sales objectives. And, is there a need to adjust that in a time of, a pandemic, or do you just keep marching forward?
Well, the good thing is, and I think in some ways sales, it may even be a little bit easier from a remote standpoint. Because in the wonderful world of revenue, we're used to metrics. And it's funny because for the years, and the way it's portrayed on TV, sales is very much kind of quote unquote by the gut, and you'll see the stereotypical car salesman type thing, which isn't fair to them because they're driven by metrics. But these old school stereotypes, and the reality is, probably even more so in the modern world, we're driven by metrics and KPIs and numbers. And conversion rates and all of these things. So I think from a transparency standpoint, whether you're in an office or you're working from home, and you're, whatever system it is that you're using, your system of record, and you can see that activity, and so whether I'm doing, 5 demos as a sales rep, and I'm doing it in the office or I'm doing it at home, I'm still doing 5 demos. And if I'm closing 3 deals, and whether I'm in the office or home, I still have a 60% conversion rate. So, I think from the world that I've primarily lived in, which is in revenue, I think it was just reinforcing those metrics and then understanding that we're still going to have them no matter, you can work in a closet, you can work in a big office, you could work from a mountaintop. The numbers are there, the KPIs. The only thing I want to piggyback on a little bit on too, what Sunny said, leadership so important, the accountability of leadership. It's everything. There's the leaders that will quote unquote, who really aren't leaders, who never take that accountability, and that it's always something else, or there's an excuse, or there's somebody else's fault. Accountability is so important. Think about what this is going to lead to, what we're talking about right now. If I can, as a leader, be accountable, it's fair and reasonable that I can expect my team to have that same level of accountability. If I'm not accountable, how can I ask my team to be accountable? And accountability ties back into metrics. If you're accountable and you're an SDR, a BDR, a BDM, the people that are really working hard doing a lot of outbound calling, how can I hold you accountable to say, hey, are you making your 75, dials a day? Are you creating your first time appointments? FTAs, right, Sunny? And how can I do that if I'm, as a leader, not being accountable to my team? And so I just want to make sure we understand those two things, I think, go very hand in hand. The metrics, the KPIs, they're important. It's how we measure progress in a business, in a revenue team. But I really do believe it starts with the accountability of the leader.
I'm so glad, Adam, you remember those FTAs when you were our advisor in 2018. And every day, Adam will start with his joke in the morning, and then, FTAs, numbers.
It always comes down to the numbers, guys. And, we're talking about, in a time of crisis, right? And Todd, this is going to tie back into your military days. In a time of crisis, what's so good and what I think we learn in the military is the focus becomes about doing our job. We become very focused on executing. We've trained for these moments. We're prepared for these moments. And even when you're trained and prepared, you have no idea. Things change very quick and very radically. But you become very focused on executing. And that is a good thing, because it can be, we all can get scared, and there's going to be fear of the unknown and everything else. But when we can get focused on the task at hand and focused on executing, and leaders can do their job and step up and look, don't lie. Don't ever, if you're a leader, please do not misrepresent what you don't know, because that's the biggest mistake I see. Is it's okay to let them know, hey guys, I don't have all the answers yet, but I can promise we're going to figure this out together. That goes in hand. We were talking about a little bit earlier. Good leaders reassure their teams. It's the ability to inspire a team, to reassure a team, to be transparent and honest with a team. And I think, again, this is what we've seen over the last, 4 months or so. And let's face it, we've still got to understand, and there's still a fair amount of unknowns that we're going to have to address, at least over the rest of the year.
Adam, it's often said that a leader's primary role is to develop the next line of leaders. So when you're hiring your next line of leaders, or you're developing your next line of leaders, what are some of the traits that you look for?
Well, first of all, I think, and this one might throw people off, right? And so, again, I like tying leadership, the business, to the military, right? Simon Sinek is one of the people I truly appreciate. He's the first one I feel really started putting all of it together. I look for someone that's going to be comfortable with challenging the status quo. So most of my teams, it's always been, I shouldn't say most, all of my teams, one of the things that I usually make very clear up front is I'm not going to get everything right. I'm going to, I'm going to do my best to get everything right, but I won't. And that's why you have a team. And so I'm okay with them understanding that, and again, there's a way, but to challenge the status quo, right? I need somebody that has the strength and character that they believe in themselves enough that they want to keep making things better, that they're going to be okay saying challenge the status quo. Now, let's just give me a quick example on that. It could be, hey, here's a way I'm thinking about, we align our territories, right? And, there may be somebody on the team that really has an idea, like they're not quite there, and they're like, hey, but what if we tried it this way? And I think from that's when you can build on top of each other. Challenge the status quo. The ability to put your team first before yourself. This one is not always easy. People think they're doing it, but they're not. And once you really commit to that and you understand, I think almost as a leader, Todd, you get to that realization where you realize you work for your team, they don't work for you.
Absolutely.
And you're looking for that in a leader. I want leaders that are compassionate, right? That can be empathetic. And again, it's so critical. Again, in sales, every sales leader started as a salesperson, right? Or you wouldn't be in a sales leadership role. And it's that empathy of remembering how hard the role was, the challenges that it had, that quotas are hard to get, the type of support that you need, the pat on the back. How about the recognition? In the military, Sunny, we don't make a lot of money. And why are we so prideful of what we do? We want to do a good job. We want to execute. And then if we do, we get these medals. And I've talked about this in some other, stuff I shared. We get these little medals that cost $1, if that, to make. But when we put on this little medal, this ribbon that you guys see with the generals, you always see with the generals, so like this long, right? And each one of those may cost $1 to make, but you feel like $1 million when you get it. And that ability to recognize people when they achieve and then not beat people down, Todd. Yeah. I can keep going and I'm sorry, but I think these are important things, lead, empathy, challenge the status quo, recognition, and by the way, this is every department. Let me tell you how much. Hey, Sunny, here's a quick quiz. How much does it cost to recognize somebody?
Nothing.
It costs nothing. And it's worth a gazillion dollars,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, my father was in service as well. So I know, that value of your badge. And it's just so powerful.
Sonny, let's stay on that same topic. You've grown IT by Design from it was just you, and then it was you and Cam, and now it's over 500 people. What do you look for in your leaders? When you're out either hiring a leader in or as you're developing internal talent to become a leader, what are some of the traits you look for?
Yeah. So thank you, Todd. So once you have the right message behind your sales team, right, and you have the right systems and processes put in place, like sales playbook, then it's all about discipline. And your people, the team that you have, starting with your sales leader. So what we value, especially when it comes to sales leadership, culture is number one, right? That personal integrity, that attitude, having your head and heart in the right place. That is so important for your sales leader. And someone who do believe in systems and standardization in terms of processes, how you deliver the message, how you systemize best practices, and you are a good coach, you're a good trainer. You can train your team, develop your team, and you can also look at a few of your top performers, few of your bottom performers, and make sure that you unite them in a way that these bottom performers can learn from the top performers. So you need to also be able to unite your team. Now, when it comes to sales team members' attributes, again, the culture, the value system in terms of personal integrity, their attitude, and everything else is so important. The most critical piece that I look at is that person is going to be a good listener. Because if your sales team member knows the value of listening, active listening, that person will ask more questions during these sales calls and listen so that person can align the right solutions. Because if you look at any sales call, normally the common mistake that I see salespeople make, if you look at their talk time versus the prospect, they talk more than listen. What we teach is lead that call by asking right questions and then listen. And that is the key to hiring a good salesperson.
Excellent. Well, we've run just a little bit over here on the clock, so let's do a quick wrap up. Adam, thank you for joining us. As always, that it was it was great talking about the importance of leadership and how it directly aligns to sales success here. The understanding and achieving the sales objectives, can't do that without leadership. You have to know your numbers and keep that straight and focus on that, but still be a leader. And then, how to be that leader to your sales team, where we talked about the empathy and, lead by example and all that. So, Sunny, why don't you wrap us up and take us out?
Yeah, thank you, Todd. And thank you, Adam. We truly, truly appreciate your friendship and that true partnership with LionGard. Thank you for being a friend and a partner. And take care.
Thank you. And same to you guys. Love what you guys have done. It's been really fun watching IT by Design continue to grow. And you guys do represent, a lot of the things that we were talking about. And I did see it firsthand. Never underestimate the importance of leadership. Sometimes you can't quantify it, but can truly be the difference between having a mediocre team, a mediocre results, to having amazing team and amazing results.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you here on the next episode of Sunny Silver Linings.